Alrighty everyone, welcome back. We are just a couple of weeks away from the official release date of The Mandalorian Season 3 on March 1st for Disney+. That's really going to open the gateway by Jon and Dave on what they have to offer to the fans when it comes to this massive franchise that's really going to explore every single option that they can, and to also really, broaden their horizons with the Star Wars lore. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing that Jon and Dave are currently up to is really trying to establish all of the existing Star Wars lore that's going to actually be taken from Legends and how that's going to coexist with the Disney canon and how it's going to create this big balance between those two types of, sides of the story. Now, we already know that Bob Iger, has been really trying to put a footprint in the Star Wars franchise and the Star Wars community and really trying to build up his own legacy within this year and, of course, what he was trying to do also at the tail end of 2022. Now, that brings us to what's going on between Iger and the Disney board, and why it's not looking good for Iger right now, and why we may very well be facing another shift in Star Wars, material in the coming years. So let's tap right into this. Now, we all know that everything related to Iger has been a bit controversial, let's just be honest. I mean, this is the guy that allowed Kathleen Kennedy to do whatever she wanted to do with the sequels, and whatever she wanted to do with Solo at the time, really kind of just firing the original creators like more than midway through filming. Absolutely irresponsible. But that brings us to this. Now, with both Disney and Lucasfilm developing over a dozen new Star Wars TV shows and projects, Jon and Dave are busy expanding the roadmap. However, it's noted that as of now, Disney CEO Bob Iger is already planning out his exit strategy from the company, as the board members have been giving him a very hard time over his plans with Kathleen Kennedy. Now, currently right now, Bob Iger is looking for a way to quit from Disney by 2024, but wants to set things up with the Star Wars universe throughout the 2023 year first to leave behind a proper legacy of his own. Now, the shakeup between the Disney board and Iger results, of course, from how Iger is now trying to revive a third Star Wars project by Kathleen Kennedy in exchange for discontinuing the Skeleton Crew series from ever having a Season 2. It's something the board has not been happy about at all whatsoever. Iger is very well aware that the board is looking at options right now on how they could fire Iger sometime this year that would go into effect by 2024. Now, right around the time Iger is looking to step down as CEO. Now, let me just stop right here for a second. Let me elaborate. Now, the board is looking to replace Iger by next year. Full, just get rid of him. That's what they're trying to do. And a lot of this has to do with expanding Kathleen Kennedy's severance deal that they're trying to settle out and that they're trying to really expand by initiating a third project of hers, and how that has something to do with the Skeleton Crew Season 2 getting crossed out, and something also to do with minimizing her severance deal. It's a very complicated situation, and who knows what's going to happen with what by the end of this summer, but it is, a back and forth, tug-of-war situation. The thing about Bob Iger, though, the board is all in on getting rid of him by next year. Now, let me be honest, I do have a little tiny bit of respect for Bob Iger. As you all know, I have a lot of criticism over the guy. I'm not really a fan of him at all, but I do give him credit for allowing Jon and Dave to stick around and do whatever they want to do, and also the fact that he allowed to carry out some of Bob Chapek's plans, the original Disney CEO before Chapek, or should I say before Iger. And he's just allowing that to continue. It's not like he's trying to sabotage Jon and Dave's momentum or their plans for the future. He's just keeping things as is, if not doing things better. There's that. What I don't really agree with him on are a lot of other things. The direction of some of the existing Disney movies. We're talking about just regular Disney movies. the Disney parks, stuff like that. But overall, the board wants him out. They are full-fledged planning a strategy to replace him by the first quarter of 2024 with somebody else, and they already have somebody in mind. We're not quite sure who that is just yet, but they already do have somebody in mind that would be more responsible and more level-headed, per se. So that brings us to the next big thing here on the specifics of what's really also going on behind closed doors, is that the original plan was for Iger, alright? Was for Iger to actually stay at Disney until sometime in 2025 or 26 the latest, and this is now looking very unlikely. With a slate of Star Wars movies being set up by Iger, this is the legacy he wants to create first. The plan by, of course, the board right now is to replace Bob Iger by 2024 with a new CEO, and they already have somebody in mind. This is why Iger is scrambling and racing to step down in the very beginning of next year to prevent this firing from happening at all. Additionally, Iger is also getting ready to make a big announcement this summer involving his future at Disney. So the thing about Iger, it's a really tough scenario. He really can't, by contract, step down this year for some reason, but he has to wait until next year. But also the board is getting ready to replace him next year, so it really is like a big race on who's going to catch up to Iger's fate first, right? Is he going to quit before they get him fired, or vice versa? That's the biggest question of all. So when we look at everything related to Iger's attempts at reviving Star Wars, listen, I think that he's got ambitions. He may not be generous to the Star Wars fandom per se. I still say this every day, that I do believe that at least through Iger, it's an act of desperation, but through John and Dave, it's an act of passion. That's what I always like to say. And when you look at something like that, alright, it does make you wonder a little bit, by getting in a new Disney CEO, things could really even be better, guys. I mean, we could even have better ambitions by somebody that respects the brand even more so than Iger. Maybe somebody that's more even so generous toward the overall fandom, instead of looking at it just like a marketing grab, right? But overall, a lot of, great things are happening out of this regardless. It's a win-win situation, really. I mean, Iger really isn't interrupting with anything as of right now. He's allowing John and Dave to just be free, do what you want to do, put out what you want to put out, but Kathleen Kennedy is sticking with Skeleton Crew and the ACOLYTE, with a potential third Star Wars show getting revived, and hopefully this does not happen, but that's what Iger's trying to do, to lower her severance deal. It's some kind of very complex deal that they're trying to work out, like an exchange. But overall, I think that given the board is very angry with Iger over that whole Kathleen Kennedy situation, trying to balance things out, they just want her out by this August as soon as possible. So anyways, drop a comment below, guys. Fill me in on what you guys think about all of this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.